So Lisa, why don't you share with us the theme or themes that you are inviting us to look at together today, and then at a certain point we will move into you being the featured oracle.
Okay, thank you, Marguerite. So I saw something posted on a friend of mine's Facebook page, and it pinged me. So I'm bringing it here so that we can take a look at the question. Her concern was that the crystal people, the crystals of the earth, are in pain by us mining them and using them. And so the question that I'd like to take a look at is that accurate to the degree that we can understand it? And if that is correct, how can we support the crystals that have already been removed? And how can we work with the crystal beings so that their work and our work is in harmony and unison?
Beautiful question. So let's all spend a little time in our goddess self state, opening to the information about the crystal queendom. Remembering our protocol of allowing others to speak before we speak again. And just giving this another minute or so in silence. Being in that eighth with those upper chakras open, nice and grounded. And let's also try that if there are subsequent questions and you've spoken first, allow someone else to speak first the next time the next question comes up around this theme. All right, you can begin anytime, whoever would like to start.
My first, when you asked the question, I got like a charge right away. And it was, the information that came was that the crystals are happy to be in the earth doing their job. And they're also happy to be in our hands working with us. And that very much it depends on the intention and the way that they were mined. Were they mined for the soul in a way that rapes the earth and doesn't honor their presence, or were they mined in a beautiful way, and whose hands are they going to? So that was the first thing that came through, that they are happy to be working with us because the way that our relationship with them can really amplify what can be done with them. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
And what I received when listening to the question at first was that those crystals that are being consciously used for the greater good are delighted to be part of this, and those that that are worn unconsciously, so jewelry that's made and people wear it without consciousness of the beings that they are and treating them as allies, that this is not happy for them. And those crystals that languish in the gem shops and the gem shows, in the buckets and boxes in the backs of the stores, are all jumbled together, although often with some of their own variety and type. That is a stressful and difficult situation for them. Those that, and those of us who work with crystals know that when we better look out when we walk into a crystal shop, because they call to us. And I have had this experience over and over of having a crystal choose me and ask to be brought home to join the ever-growing family that I have of them. And then in our transmissions the last time, when we were talking about shape-shifting, I was given the information that crystals are shape-shifters and they are assistants in the process of shape-shifting. And I did a cacao ceremony just the other day, and I put a number of my large crystals on an altar with candles, and watching the light flicker in the crystals is really a revelation, seeing all the things that are included. So what I'm receiving from the ones who are my allies and who have come to live with me here is, we appreciate very deeply being part of this work now to create a greater good for all. And we remind you that we are beings in and of ourselves. We remind you to pay attention to us. We remind you to give us honor and to use us more than you have been. We are here as allies for you. We have much to offer you, and each of us is its own being, as we carry the DNA, as it were, of all of our sisters and brothers from under the earth. We also are, as you describe your womb chakra as a hologram of the womb chakra of creation, so are we each a hologram of our entire species. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Thank you, Ariana. Yes, that resonates. And when you were talking about, we're speaking about the crystals that are sort of left over and put in pails or bins, what I received was the pain of not being able to live out one's purpose, and to do so in a way that benefits the greater good. That there is pain in, and I can almost kind of see it enlarged to the human world. What is the pain of not being able to truly be who you are and support others? So in that way, I feel like the crystals, the crystal beings, can help us become more of who we are as we support them in becoming more of who they are, so that together we are each living more into our purpose. And so I think that speaks to what happens when one is not conscious of the energy, the power, the beingness of that crystal. And what can that crystal do, and what can we do to help sort of open up that conscious connection? That's the key. That just popped in. The conscious connection between how can this crystal and this beautiful being who is living out its purpose support me in living out mine, rather than, oh, this is a lovely piece of jewelry. How to make that connection more conscious. And my sense about this is that when I read the comment that my friend had put out there, it did not feel true to me that these beings were in pain, ones that had been out in the world. And what the pain comes from, I'll try to make that more clear. The pain comes from is not being used and honored. Exactly what you said they brought through you, Ariana. So I really feel like there's a beautiful synergy that's available between humans and the crystal beings, that can amplify the purpose of both. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
And I apologize for jumping back in, but this is actually a continuation of their transmission about being holograms. What they told me.
Let's wait. Let's let Sumaya, and hold off on that if you would, Ariana. Let's let Sumaya and Renee jump in here. Okay.
Thank you. What I have received is very much in resonance with what the other sisters are saying. I initially received, but didn't pick up right away, that the crystals are they are beings, however, in the earth, however, they are very, very different in their beingness from us. And they are here as part of Gaia and to serve Gaia. And because we are also of Gaia, they can serve us. And in their service of us, it is important that we recognize that they are conscious beings of a different dimension, and that we do treat them as such. And they do not, how shall I say, the crystals are serving a higher purpose than we know, because even though they are considered 2D, or the second dimension, in their position in the earth, they are actually capable of transmitting information into the higher dimensions, into receiving knowledge and awareness that we can place into them in our sacred work. But these crystals, because of their ability to reflect light, they have the ability to connect us to the higher dimensions, at least to the 6th dimension and perhaps beyond, and that they have a greater cosmic significance that I'm still waiting to receive more information on. But there is a way that they relate to starlight, and that the crystals in the starlight actually, that it is useful for us to, from time to time, bring our crystals outside on a starry night so that they can absorb more of the starlight, because we are starlight and so are they. And this gives us a higher resonance, a higher ability to use the crystals, and that they are, when the crystals are mined without, in a way that is damaging, it's not that the crystals are, have emotions about this, but that this creates problems within Gaia, and that then more adjustments have to be made deep within the earth. And that these kinds of things, this kind of unconscious mining, is what is connected to many of the volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and things like that, as Gaia has to constantly readjust her energies within her to maintain a healthy equilibrium for all of us. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
When we started talking, I heard laughter, and I wasn't sure if it was the crystals or the fairies. I don't know if they play together, but I feel like it is, and then as everybody talked, I just kind of got more images. Like the one that I remember clearly was somebody mentioned a bucket of crystals in a back room, and I saw a bucket full of crystals, and then I backed up a little bit, and I saw like these pulses of energy coming off of the bucket, like into the store, out of the store, onto the streets. So I think they appreciate every form that they're in, and when they're born into the light, it's almost like a second birth, and now they get to live their second purpose. Maybe when they're in the ground, they are with Gaia, and they're healing that way. And then when they come into the light, whether they're in a bucket or in the palm of a priestess's hand, there's still that energy. And while, you know, sustainable farming of crystals would be nice, I don't think that it's bad. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So I resonate with so much of what's being coming forth here. I do get the information that a toning down of the harvesting would be much better right now until we get more conscious, because it's like anything that gets taken from the earth. And this goes all the way to strip mining, removal of the gas, the fracking, all of these things are part of it. The misaligned harvesting of anything of Mother Earth, be it organic or be it mineral. This is all part of the great unbalancing that's been going on, and that's more and more intense. And, you know, these great repositories in Brazil and so forth, it's like the harvesting of elephant tusks. It really needs to come in some levels to stop altogether, except for very consciously done things, just the way that, in a sense, the killing of animals used to be done in a very sacred way, shamanically. And every piece of the animal was used for the people, and it was every now and then, and not the sort of the factory farming of the animals and the plants, for that matter. So it's like we're out of balance with every way in which we're harvesting. And the disbalancing goes to the level of what the purposes are of the crystals in the earth is in their home beds. They provide a kind of a location device for other beings and star dimensions to locate the planet. And when those deposits get disturbed, the larger the deposit that gets disturbed, the greater the disturbance and the greater the dislocation from the communication system. So while people in the spirit community are somewhat well-meaning, they don't understand that they dislocate a messaging system when they start profligately destroying and disturbing the crystal beds. This is going to be a bigger and bigger problem as larger and larger crystal beds get identified, including the very massive crystals in the earth that are in difficult to reach places because they're hot right now. So it's something that we can begin to become aware of now, and then move into greater alerting when we hear and find out of these other larger plans, which would really disrupt inner earth, and not only from the geological perspective, but also from the perspective of the potential peoples or beings living within there. So there are many aspects to this, and I could continue, but I will pause there. Oriana, did you want to jump back in with something that you were looking at?
Yes, the crystals actually told me that as they function as holograms, we can connect in with all of their cohorts in the buckets, in the back rooms, in the crates, and we can actually call upon all of those like them in the work that we're doing, and that they would appreciate. And then also, Sumaya, just before you began talking about starlight, I heard the words, crystals are starlight in form. That's a lovely synchronicity.
Yes, I've received that they are the three-dimensional version of light as well. So just to validate what we're all receiving here on that.
Mhm. So that just as we think of our planetary protection grid or our womb grid, there is also a crystal grid. So, and as you were saying, Marguerite, there is a grid of crystal communication underground. We also can create a crystalline grid above ground with those that we're working with.
The word gluttony comes to mind when I think of the crystal shows. And there is a great gluttony in the New Age movement around this. And that's something to be looked at. Nicola, I wanted to invite you back in if there were more things that were coming to you.
Renee, when you spoke of, is there a connection with the fairies and the crystals? Years ago, I had a crystal in my car, and I had a 4-year-old say, "There's a fairy in your crystal." And I trust that more than most things. And so as when you said that, I had that memory, and then I was asking, what is this connection with the fairies and the crystals? And what I was shown is that the fairies will actually go to the crystals and they will rest in them, they will recharge in them, they will charge them up. So they definitely have a resonation and a connection where each of them deeply appreciates one another and can communicate easily. And that concept of play, the crystals love it, the fairies love it. So there's a deep resonation there. Blessed be.
Blessed be. I see that some of the crystals actually become houses for fairies.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a fairy crystal. Sometimes it's when there's the rainbow in it. That's a sign, but it's usually more than just the rainbow. There's actually a sense like that 4-year-old could see. There's other crystals you probably have where it's like, that looks like a fairy being to me. And that brings me to visions I've been given of interdimensional crystals that this was a technology or a type of crystal that exists on like the 8th dimension where you look into it and you can go into a whole world. And I was able to enter in and out of actually telos with that. So it's a portal. It's a portal device. Crystals are portal devices at the higher and higher dimensions. Blessed be.
The fairies have been here since I came and sat in this chair. And normally fairies don't hang out with me in this space. And I kept saying, why are you here? And they were just like, hee 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 hee. And so I resonate with the comments by the other sisters about the connection between the fairies and the crystal and those worlds. And the lightness of being that the fairies bring to that space. And so I feel like there's a beautiful, again, the word synergy between the fairies and the crystals and our willingness and openness to working with them. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Let's see if Renee and Sumaya have anything else to contribute here before we move into Lisa and some questions for her.
I was receiving, as I hold my crystal, that as we go into a place where there are a lot of crystals, to really appreciate their beauty, because beauty and love are very much connected. And as we appreciate their beauty, we are actually sending them love. And that this goes a long way toward healing them, healing the fractures, healing whatever damage might have been done in their extraction or their being cast in a bucket at one point, that we have a synergistic relationship with the minerals and not only crystals but other stones that we are only beginning as humans to understand. And Marguerite mentioned a number of these things, but I feel like they are a world that we are synergistically connected to. And as we appreciate their beauty and send them love, they do respond to that as individuals and as I guess we could say a community or a kingdom or a queendom of crystals. And this can go a long way toward healing the damage that has been done. This is a vibrational form of action taking. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Renee, did you want to share anything further?
No, thank you.
Okay. We have just a few minutes before I'd like to begin with Lisa on this. I'm inviting us to consider the imprintability of crystals, as we know from silicon and quartz, which are used in time, and computer devices, which are time portal devices, actually. Silicon at the computer creates a time portal, which is why we have senses of lost time when we're at a computer. We don't realize how much time is passing. And so I'm wondering about what crystals get imprinted with when they are harvested by certain people in certain ways, when they are manipulated by certain people in certain ways, when they are cut, and so forth. Should a crystal even be cut? Or is that like a kind of a plastic surgery of a person's aging face, or whatever it is, you know? And do the crystals in the forms of the gems, the diamonds coming out of South Africa that have been harvested, the ways and the structure, perhaps even the Illuminati structure of the archonic energies that run that whole system, has that imprinted or affected marriages all around the world? And I will start in now with the question for Lisa Wechtenheiser about that. What is the effect of the methods and the systems of harvesting of diamonds in South Africa in particular, and how have they affected people who wear them?
With that question, my eyes fill with tears because there is truth, so much truth, that the diamonds are imprinted with and do not have the power to transmute the pain of those who are forced into that work. And so there is a sense that a healing can be put out into the world, into the healing ethers. A healing can be put out into the ethers so that it supports the diamond's ability to transmute the pain, and the pain that it brings with it, and the pain that it brings to the relationship, so that it becomes a chalice of love, and that's because that's what the intention really was supposed to be. Diamonds were intended to be a chalice, and I'm seeing like a diamond, you know, the diamond shape where it's wider on the top and narrow on the bottom, and it's supposed to be a chalice to support the love of those individuals who wear it, and it's been doing the opposite. So those who are adept at healing, who are adept at working with those particular beings, those particular diamond beings, please step forward and work with them to transmute that so that they can become the chalices of love that they were meant to be.
And Lisa, as part of this, before we open to others, is there something in the cutting of the diamonds? Is it not only just the energies of the diamond cutter, but is there something about cutting of diamonds that shouldn't even be happening, or
Yes.
can you speak to that?
Yes.
Other
I can feel the pain of being cut. And there are ways to do that, but when the intention is focused on breaking apart rather than creating a new space, a new chalice, a new energy, but when there is just ripping apart. So it is both the intention of those doing it that feeds into the feeling of the diamonds being ripped apart. And as if, imagine someone just came up to you and hacked off your arm. And so you had to learn a new way of being that may ask you to grow in a different way, yes, but it was sudden and not asked for. And so, yes, it is both the intention and the actual cutting.
Let's open it to some more questions for Lisa.
So I'm actually doing a ceremony today for a baby, and I was at a crystal shop this morning, and what I got intuitively was to work with the baby and the crystals, some of the rounder shapes, not the raw, just the gentle rounded shape. So that means that some of these crystals have been through some intense experiences. And I'm wondering, is there more information about the use? Is there benefit to these softer shapes sometimes and sticking with the raw other times? What information are you getting around all kinds of crystals and the way that they've been shaped by either human hands or machines?
When I first tuned into the question you asked, round to me always means love. Always. Round energy means love. And so I saw this child wanting to be surrounded by that love, and those crystals that you were drawn to have the capability to do that. And again, I'm being shown that chalice to fill up with love and to open into divine love. And so, yes, their roundness has been shaped by sometimes trauma and sometimes just unintentional cruelty, but they've transmuted it into the chalice, into the holding space for love. I see that, thank you. The ragged, raw crystals let me know in no uncertain terms that they have very different work to do, and it is not transmutation of love. It is not a chalice. Their work is to file like a nail file away that which does not belong. So if you find yourself attracted to crystals that are more ragged in nature, or there is a raw energy to them, it may be because they can support you in filing away gradually, not ripping away, not tearing away, but just filing away little bit by little those raw pieces, those pieces in you that might not need to be there. So they're quite adamant about their purpose being very different. Their energy is very different, even than the diamonds and the round crystals. So they have their uses, and they are not for everybody. So if you're not drawn to them, that's fine too. They know who to call. They know who to call. They're very funny. They know who to call.
And I have a question, Lisa. I remember one of our sisters who works with plants a lot wondered about plants that are ornamental and that are formed in particular shapes, and she told us of having a conversation with those hedges and the trees that have been trimmed, and they told her they actually enjoyed having these different forms and being cared for particularly in this way. And I'm also thinking of Michelangelo, who would take a big block of marble and say he chipped away until he revealed the form underneath. Is there any of that kind of thing with the crystals?
Yes, very much so. That made me smile, and I feel the resonance of that strongly, that they're very strong. They're very, very powerful and strong. And so, yes, you can chip away to reveal something different, and we are very happy to do that. Or you can enjoy us in our natural state. We are happy with that as well. You will find that different crystals are asking for different experiences. So if you are drawn to a crystal, perhaps hold it in your hand and ask it what experience it would like to have with you. What journey can you and that crystal take together? And they're making me laugh because they're showing me these crystals in someone's hand with like old time, like Amelia Earhart hat on, like I'm ready for adventure. I'm dressed for adventure. And so, ask them what adventure they can go on with you, because they're more than happy to do that. So yes, there is enormous joy when I go into that energy.
Yeah.
Lisa, can you say something about how the crystals relate to the higher dimensions, either within Earth or once they have been brought forth out for us to enjoy and love? What are their abilities to do that, and what dimensions might they relate to, and for what purpose?
Thank you, Sumaya. When you said that, when you asked what was their relation to the higher dimensions, I saw a triangle going from the earth with the bottom line, and then the two lines leading up to the dimensions. And they're showing me it's like that recycle button where it's like reuse, recycle, whatever. Like the energies flow between here and the upper dimension. So anything, thank you, anything that needs to be brought down into consciousness, but isn't quite ready yet, can be grounded, right? That's that bottom part of the triangle, grounded by the crystals, anchored here in the third dimension so that we can feel it. And then as we raise our consciousness, it goes back up. New information comes down and gets grounded. So it's a beautiful cycle/circle that I'm seeing of how the crystals work with the higher dimensions and help bring information down that is of use to the greater consciousness and ground it. Like they said, why do you think we live in the ground? Right? So that triangle can really absorb. A triangle is very stable. and it can really absorb an enormous amount of information. And Marguerite, when you were talking about the portal in the higher dimensions and looking through that, I could see that, and they're showing me like the information comes through those portals, and they're showing me like climbing down a ladder and then dropping it down into like a funnel, and then it comes down and through. And so the more that we are able to anchor it into the consciousness, ground it with the use of crystals, the more the crystals can go up and get more information and bring it down. Sumaya, does that answer that at all?
Yes, it does. I think it might relate to why they like to be exposed to starlight.
Mm.
Are you getting that there is a relationship to what you just said about the higher?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the whole starlight, the pieces of starlight and all of that, yes, very much so. And they said, but you know what? When the moon is full, we like that too. There's a lot of joy about that. Like, oh yeah, like they're showing me on a beach, like on their towels, like, yeah, bring the sun, you know. So like the sun and the moon and those very natural sources of light, whether it's teeny pinpricks of light like starlight or the big sun or the moon, all have different qualities that feed them. So very much yes, and you'll know with your own crystals what they would like when.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Renee, are you having a question?
I have a question. There is 3 recorded times in history where Gaia has hit the reset button. What do you think the role of crystals are in us getting closer to yet another pressing of that button? Do you think that they're trying to help lead us away from or lead us towards?
That's a very good question. And what they're showing me is that pyramid again. And when we're bringing down the consciousness and grounding it, there's not as much need for a reset. The reset occurs because everybody's just kind of lost focus of everything. And they said, y'all are kind of near it now, but the more that we can bring that guidance down and ground it, and then people shoot it back up, then, so I would say in answer to your question, it feels like they're leading us more away from that with the very clear idea of that cycle. Bring it down, ground it, new consciousness goes up, and the same thing. So they support whatever Gaia needs to do, but in their work with us, the more we can bring consciousness to our lives. And yes, thank you. They said, you know, it's not so much, they're showing me like the whole world, like, wouldn't it be great if like the whole world just kind of woke up? And that's not how it's going to happen. And so one by one, by one, by one, by one. So if people think that, oh, well, I'm just one person, it doesn't matter. No, it plays into the whole. So the more a person can receive guidance, their own guidance, bring it down, ground it in reality, and then move it around, back up and around, that can move things so much faster than a reset could. Oh, that's interesting. Than a reset could. So they're kind of giving us like, do this process. Like seriously, do this process about bringing that guidance down and grounding it.
Lisa, as we were talking about this and we were talking about the diamonds from South Africa, I had the sense of Marilyn Monroe singing "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend." And I'm knowing that she had a contested life and death that was most likely connected with some of these negative forces. Is there some kind of programmed message that went in there to foment the diamond industry, so to speak, and therefore the suffering? And if so, how can women clear their marital diamonds?
Yes. Yes, there is programming in place because, as you know, Marguerite, fear feeds those beings in sadness. And so the more that can get out and happen, the more those beings can feed on it. So yes. And as to how, oh, I see it. Oh, 1 second. As to how we can clear our diamonds, I see that, thank you. Affirm with your hand on the diamond or wherever the diamond is, that you walk in love only by your free will and your sovereignty, that you choose to walk in love. And that no longer will this diamond that's in your possession hold any energy that is, and the word they're giving me is anathema, opposite to that. No longer will you allow this. And it goes into that sovereignty and that consciousness, because you have to be conscious to claim sovereignty. So those who are listening to this, who have diamonds, would be well served to claim their sovereignty, and that of the jewelry that they choose to wear holds that energy, and anything else must leave that space.
Yes, it be. We have time for a few more minutes. Is there one final question that would like to come forth for Lisa on this?
I have one. Lisa, I've seen there's Lemurian crystals, there's Isis crystals, and it just, as the years have gone by, it seems like we're given more and more labels, and we're saying, if you look for this little thing, it means it's that type of crystal. I mean, are we doing this accurately at all? Are we labeling these guys accurately, or is someone just saying it for sale?
So what I'm getting is that it's important to always follow your inner knowing. And so whether the label comes from outside you, that's the important thing. Yeah. So Nicola, because I hear in your question that doubt, is that accurate? Is it not? Then follow that. And so the doubt says, maybe that's not what I think it is, or maybe that's not that. This is where your inner knowing can support you. So whether something is labeled Lemurian or Atlantis or whatever, when you hold it, when you look at it, what is your feeling about it? Because that is the only way for you to know the truth of it for you, right? There is no, there is no, what is it? What are you giving me? There is no definitive answer. That's what I'm getting. You know what I'm saying is, who's that king with the, he's a king underwater, and he's got that, that's not Atlantis. I don't know who that is, but it's a king. Neptune, thank you. Neptune puts that thing down in the ground, and he's like, that is the only way you will know, is by what you feel. And that's a message for a larger scope, obviously, but as to whether it's being done accurately or not, likely not, but the truth is within you.
Beautiful.